Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, sensual movement artist, relationship and sex alchemist, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome to The Pleasure Zone, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. It's Monday, and that's why we're having pleasure time. For those of you who are brand new to this station, you are in for a treat. We have a lot of different shows on this station. We have things talking that range from orgasms to like how to invest your money. And even we even had butchers on too. So if you look on some of our past podcasts, you will find topics on literally everything. If there's a topic that you feel like you're an expert in and you would like to have shows, information on our Inspired Choices Network website that you can connect with our CEO, and you'll get all the information you require for that. So tonight I have a special guest. She's a friend of mine, and she's a colleague in the sex education world as well. Her name is Lala, but I know her as something else. So tonight, this is her tantric name, I believe. So yeah. We will be discussing a really cool thing that I saw her posting the other day, which was having matchmaking with a little Tantra slipped in there, which is pretty cool. So it's one of these things that I bet so many of you, when you hear this, you're like, why has nobody done before? And it's one of those like brilliant things where everybody's, I'm sure, going to go, why has nobody done this before? Of course, this makes sense. So I love that. It's one of those things that comes up that way. And so one of the things that I was wondering about, Janice, I know you, but don't expect our listeners to know you. My curiosity is can you tell our listeners a little bit about you in terms of history and interest of Tantra?
Okay, so I am a Tantra coach and a sacred sexuality educator. So I believe that sex should be sacred. That's one of my main goals in life. So I help support men, women, and couples to open up their intimacy levels and become more sexually active. Just getting into the magic of their sacred sexuality, making them aware of the pleasures that sex can bring.
No, this is an obvious question to either you or I, because I have done like an intro. Doesn't mean people listen to it. So, and I bring it up in a lot of different conversations as well. And I'm wondering, what is sacred?
What is sacred sexuality? Sacred sexuality.
Yeah, what is sacred sex, or what is sacred sexuality to you?
Okay. To me, sacred sexuality is sex that is not superficial. Sex that is more intimate, more deep, more loving, where the people open up their hearts and express to each other in a way that they're supposed to. We have gotten into a world of everything has to be quick. Everything has to be superficial. It's really hard for couples to remain connected. They have kids. The kids are going to the dance classes. Kids are going to their, hockey. And people are running around. They're working too hard. They're working too much. There's no time for that slow, beautiful, intimate, sacred sexuality. That's what it is. That's what it's all about.
Beautiful. So these matchmaking events that you hold, is there a component to that where you start to facilitate people and the people who are showing up into having a bit of a stepping into that, like it's a bit of like an education as well as a matchmaking session? Or can you tell us a little bit about how they might learn more about that from you?
Well, it's definitely going to be a learning tool. When we sit down and we're going to be starting, we're going to set intentions. First of all, I'm going to set intentions for them, what I would like to see happen in the group, with the group, and what's going to be happening for the session. The people are then going to set their own intentions, the intentions of why they came and what they want out of the event. Also, I'm going to be doing a meditation, a very deep meditation. And I'm going to be talking about things that they need to know kind of in the dating scene. First of all, it's going to be talking about male and female energies. We all have male and female energies in us, but some people have more male energy and more female energy. Some have more female energy than male. And when you're coming together with somebody, you kind of need to get into a place where they join, where they weave together, so that it's a very exciting, but more calm and what words I want to use here?
Like unified in a way?
Unified, yeah, unified. So nice. I'm going to be talking about boundaries, because boundaries are really important. Consent is very important. Clarity of the way they feel and what they're going to be doing. I'm going to be taking them through all kinds of exercises, eye gazing exercises, rituals. And when it comes time to the speed dating part, what I'm going to be doing is I'm giving the women the questions. I have a list of probably about 50 questions, and they're all geared towards opening up the heart, and also for the men that are going to be answering to think more about what their answers are. It's not anything superficial. Like a lot of speed dating, there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of, what do you do for a living? How much money do you make? Where do you live? All the really superficial stuff. But this is going to be inspirational, motivational, questions about there's so many of them.
Like belief systems and life targets and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, like there's all kinds of different ones. Manifestations. There's 5 or 6 questions in each category, and there's probably about 10 categories.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think this is, even if, say, for example, a person doesn't necessarily find a partner through this event, what a great source of gaining some new questions to ask, even in the dating world. So even just to show up for your resource material is, I'm sure, 100% worth it, along with all of the other things like the meditations and some of the other ritual play. Because one of the things that is definitely, like you were saying, lacking is that we are going on full tilt, and there's a lack of presence when it comes to sex and intimacy. And even when I get people who are even looking for coaching from me, or don't know they're looking for coaching, they're going to date, thank you, and I'm married. It's always interesting, is I'm like, hey, even if you thought you were going to date me, this is the process that I would actually encourage you to do. And you would need to look at some of these things about yourself before I even have a conversation with you. And it's surprising how many people would even just walk away and not even consider that, well, that effort's not worth it. I'm like, hey, have you done any healing on your inner child? Or are you just doing this out of like total desperation? Because I've been working on myself for like 27 years. I just wondered if you have been.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to be with somebody with the same vibration as you. You don't want somebody who, if you've been working on yourself and you're at a very high vibration, that person that you're meeting, if they're in a low vibration, if they're into doing drugs and drinking and, partying and just living a very carefree, careless life, you're not going to be a match to them. Well, I think maybe we're cut out. Melissa, you there?
I'm so excited for you. So I saw it. There's such an energy about that. This is what, do we ever need this in the world? Like, let's take all of these things like away from it. Let's take these things that are these extreme forms of speed, these apps that just have you swipe left or right. And I don't even know which one is which, frankly, because the only time I was on one was to assist one of my cousins in picking somebody. And I was like, I didn't know what she was doing, swiping. And I'm, why don't you ask some questions?
Yeah.
That are just looking at eyes and saying yes to the face. You need to ask some questions about this. So I thought it was fascinating that people would pick and judge so quickly. And it's actually creating such a massive amount of judgment in our world about people, body shaming too, and personality shaming. And like, there's so much shame around it. Like, oh, you're not in the same quality of finances as I am, or you're not the same good looking level as I am, or whatever it happens to be. There's such massive judgment, and to bring something to the world where the dating actually is heart-centered is so beautiful. And especially because I have people ask me all the time, well, where do I meet somebody? So I have invited to this event on Facebook over 100 people who have probably asked me, how do I meet somebody? And most of them live in the GTA, so hopefully they show up at your event. But I hear it all the time, and I'm like, but there are places, and if you're looking for somebody spiritual, you're not going to find them in a bar, likely, very unlikely. Unless they just happen to be there accidentally for somebody's party and they're trying to support their friend for 5 minutes and then they walk out, but chances are pretty low. So if you're looking for somebody who has similar belief systems to you, and are looking for spiritual development, what an amazing resource. I know that we used to in Toronto, there used to be the Learning Annex, and then the Learning Annex shut down, or I just don't see anything posted by it anymore for several years. But that also used to be a really great source to meet people who had similar beliefs to you. You would go into courses and classes and similar beliefs. Meetup.com would also have certain things like that too. So yes, I'm sure at some point you'll see these events posted on meetup.com as well, I'm sure. As we need more of this, and we need it to be in a variety of different ways, because you could just go to a class, you could meet somebody, you could go to like a healing class or a yoga class. Yes, you could do that. However, in those classes, there to sit down those questions to people and to be able to go through the room and ask around. So this is like, to me, like such a fantastic creation that both you're getting some lessons in it and that you're getting the chance to be able to ask those questions of people and meet the people around the room, deliberately meet them. And it's almost like the requirement to be vulnerable in that situation is so big, just to have your barriers down so that you can hear the people, so that your heart is open, so that you know what works for you, and you dance. Like, you're in a room of people, what have you got to lose on being yourself? Like, you might as well just show up as yourself, as compared to meeting somebody at a bar where you might be like feeling vulnerable, you don't even know if they're safe or not. This is like a safe environment, safe questions. Like, there's so much about it that is so fantastic, and I'm so excited to be able to encourage people to come to your events. And even as I was inviting people, I was like, oh, and I've got friends here and here, and they're all over the world. And I'm thinking, Jailala, what if you could just go around the world and people could invite you to their cities and you could create events in their cities? And I'm like busting it out around the world for you. So I'm putting it out there, whether Jailala is putting it out there or not.
Yes.
If you guys would like something like this organized in your area, connect with her. And I'm sure that if you had enough people interested, she would show up for you guys.
Oh, definitely. Definitely would show up.
How fun would that be, right? Well, I'm just going to head off to Brazil and do a Tantra speed dating class. And head over to Japan for some Tantra speed dating classes. I think it's awesome because I see that it could actually, like the vision I had when I saw that for you, I was like, whoa, it becomes like this energy is so massive. I loved it so much. I was like, it expands around the world, and I just felt so confident for what you're creating that I really am excited to see you keep using it and choosing having more and more people show up and seeing how successful this can be. We're going to head to our first commercial. We're going to talk more about all the great things that are offered that are different. You know, Janice did mention a few things that are different in this compared to regular speed dating, how tantric speed dating is different than regular speed dating. We're going to get into a little bit more information on that. We'll talk about some other things as well related to this event. And we will talk about the next event. If you would like her to do events in your area. So we'll do all of that in our next segment. You're going to be with us for content to cover. Listening to the Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex
You're
lives?
having problems with
what if
your...
now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email. info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. I want to just thank all of you who stick around during my fun times with my internet. It's what I get as a gift for living in the middle of nowhere, Ontario, where I live in like a field and I'm surrounded by trees. And as the trees grow, then the interference happens with my internet. And then what's really beautiful is when there's wind, it creates extra excitement. And we have a windy night tonight. We have a storm brewing. So if I do drop, I hope that you get to be listening to Jailala's voice of great insight and wisdom. And apologies if I do. And I may just, I may not drop anymore. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Let's expand the energy and be super present and have some fun tonight. So I want to thank you guys, though, if it is frustrating you. My apologies. That's the amazing gift of living where I live. So just before break, we were talking a little bit about speed dating in the realm of Tantra speed dating compared to regular speed dating. Frankly, I've never done speed dating. My life is like speed dating, and I just like get in relationships almost like out of the blue. I honestly have never had effort in a relationship. That's never something I've had to ever really go out and find anybody. They just kind of literally show up on my doorstep like my husband did. That is kind of my weirdest thing with relationships. And that's the same thing I've ever had with jobs. It's weird, it's my nature, but I love hearing how people meet each other. And so Jalala, like, have you had experience in speed dating in general in the past, so that, you know, did you kind of go, I've done this and it didn't really work and I'd like to see something different? Or was it that you were just really aware of how it worked and didn't really choose it?
There was one time where I tried to get into one, and it was really, really popular, really busy. But I've been told by friends that it's again a very superficial thing. There is a lot of drinking. It's usually in a bar, and so if it's in a bar, there's a lot of drinking. People are more kind of, they let loose. They're more open, but not open in a hearted way, but opened in a, you know, maybe a little bit more wanting to, I guess, become more sexual. I guess there was from what I understand, it was very much kind of like the same type of thing that they have when they do the websites. You know, right. It was the swiping left, swiping right. And the questions that they got were like very superficial questions. And that's why I wanted to make it different. I wanted the questions to be something that the men had to think about, something that like, who inspires you? What was the best vacation you've ever taken and why? Why was it the best vacation? What place would you love to live other than where you are now? You know, things like that make them think, things that are so much more in depth.
Yeah, beautiful. And it can actually show how well, what you do have in common in terms of, like, if somebody really is adventurous, those things will all come out in the questions as well, through the exploration of each other. And I'm such a huge fan of communication. I talk about it all the time on this show, and having these kinds of questions, whether it is for your dating or for your relationship, it's something that you could use time and again. Even if you're with somebody, you could use it time and again as a reevaluation. We talked about reevaluating relationships last week, when we talked about how relationships could be, or we could treat them like careers, and we do evaluations every few months and see where things stand. So you guys all know I'm all about evaluating things and seeing how you feel. How do you feel now? Because it changes all the time. And these sorts of questions, where maybe a year ago your biggest dream might have been to live in Bali, your biggest dream now might be to live on the boat in the middle of nowhere, and these things change. So it's always cool to come back to these questions and reevaluate them, even if you're in relationship already. So I know that's not really what this event is for. It's more for singles meeting each other, but I bet that there are some great questions that if you connected with Jailala, she could probably facilitate that for you through private sessions. I'm just saying, maybe there's some resources there, right? So do that too. As much as Jailala's got she's the coordinator of this event, the matchmaking event, the tantric matchmaking. also available for private sessions. So if people wanted to get a hold of you for any of this stuff, how do they find you?
Okay, so I do have, I'm on Instagram. So I'm on Instagram under Conscious Vibrations Healing. I'm on Facebook under Heart and Soul Tantra, and also under the name Janice Lee. And I'm on LinkedIn under the name Jalila. I guess I'm kind of like,
lots of variety.
Well, Jalila is my name that I'm given. Like my Tantra name is Jalila. Yeah, and Janice Lee was the name that I had in my previous life. Yes. So a lot of my Facebook is under that.
Janice Lee, as yes, we all have those given names, and then we have our names that are more resonating to who we are as beings, right? So yeah. There's those legal names and those non-legal names. Yeah. It's always good.
I'm also on my bio link. So I'm in bio.link/Jalila. And I have a lot of there. Yeah.
And the link for any of you who would like the easy link, you can come over to Inspired Choices Network, and under this show posting, you'll find that link available in that show posting as well. And so Janice, is this going to be, I wasn't sure if I saw that there was an event posted a little while ago. Is this your second event you're holding, or have you already held one, or is this your first one that's coming up?
This is the first one. I tried to hold one in December. Things were just opening up. I was so excited because things were just opening up and people were wanting to get together. And I was so excited about it. But I decided to have it on December the 8th. And unfortunately, in December,
lots of things shut down. Yeah, and things started shutting down in Ontario,
and they started shutting down again. Yeah, so it was just not the best time. So now things are opening up again, and I'm very, very excited. And this one is taking off, so I'm really excited about it.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. And I, as I was thinking about this event, I was like, oh wow, like I'd have to discuss this with my husband about. I was like, oh, yeah, we could have one here in our field and outside, and you could have them anywhere. And I'm like, I'm excited to go to an event, and I'm like married, and I'm like, but I just want to experience it. So it would be quite funny to be like, yeah, I can't actually date you. I'm choosing not to. I'm choosing a monogamous relationship. However, I'm curious about this, and I want to experience it. So because I've never done the dating scene, really, it's so weird. And I think it would be fascinating just for research purposes. So when I say that, I also wondered, will you be holding any workshops in the future for couples who maybe could use some of these questions as well? So keep up with Jalila's work. You're going to kinds of amazing things coming through in the next while, whether it's for couples who are already together workshops, whether it's for this dating scenario. And then my other questions were like, okay, so we've got like the cisgender heteronormative world covered. What about the LGBTQ plus community? Do you have anything that you've considered doing for that community?
Actually, that's up next on my agenda.
I love that.
I'm talking to a person. I think we're going to coordinate together. And he's a trans, and so we're talking about it, and we're gonna call it the rainbow.
I love it. That's awesome.
Tantra rainbow.
Oh, that's beautiful. So this will be for anybody who's non-binary as well, and identifies like whether it's your sexual identity as LGBTQ plus or whether it's your gender identity. These things will be open to you as well. And there's so much available to the heteronormative cisgender group of people. So it's nice to see things opening up for the non-binary. I say that because my child's non-binary, and I like to see things opening up for non-binary people in the world to make their lives easier. So very cool. I'm excited to see all of that's showing up for everyone. And then, the curiosity comes in for as you were talking about the different ways that you're currently working with the binary people, the men and women who are coming to like the cisgender heteronormative group, where the women will be asking questions. I'll be fascinated to see how that switches up when you work with a group of people who might not identify the same way. Picking it out of a hat or something. Who would like to start? I think it could be really interesting and very expansive and have a different feel to it too. And I also feel like what a great opportunity too, if you are curious, and it's like a place where it would be safe that if you're curious and you're not sure and you fall into the questioning category, what a great place to show up and see how you feel, to be actually in an environment that isn't just geared to trying to have sex. Because even, as much as we have it on things like Tinder, as everybody is just trying to get laid, the same thing happens on like Grindr, and the same thing happens in all of the LGBTQ bars. Like there's a lot of things that are just geared towards who can you get off with and how fast can you do it, rather than connecting. So I love that it's going to be brought into more than just the heteronormative. That was one of my very first questions. I'm like, will this go into the rest of the world? Yes. And awesome. So we're actually at our next commercial, because that's how fast it happens. So I just want to say, stick around, guys. We have lots more to talk about. If you do have questions, we invite you to come over to inspiredchoicesnetwork.com into our chat room. If you feel shy about calling in, or if you feel shy about coming on video and asking questions, that's okay. Come into our chat room. I know a lot of people get shy on this program. After 7.5 years, I've only had a few callers, but I get a lot of private emails and I get a lot of private messages after the fact. So lots of shyness, but lots of curiosity. And I like that people are still willing to communicate. It's just not always public, and that's okay too. So if you are curious, if you do have questions, please write to us. We would love to hear them. You are listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Interested in masturbating for money, copulating for consciousness, and pleasuring on purpose? 21 Days of Sexual Magicism with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic is an exploration of tools, processes, and actions that you can use to create more for your life, your body, your money inflows, and so much more. Graduated learning for all levels of interest. Learn at your own pace via video classes or join the yearly live class. Take a peek at www.milicajelenic.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight, I am having a conversation with Jalala, who's a friend of mine. She is a Tantra, I'm calling you a Tantra coach. I believe that's correct, yes. And also a sexual educator in different ways as well. And Janice, or Jalala, sorry, is, I will get that correct. I just got to stop thinking of you that way. So Jalala is offering us join in on an event that is all about matchmaking, speed dating, and Tantra. Throw those three things together and you get a pretty phenomenal experience. And I know I've used the word energy and sex a lot in shows, and I've interviewed people about Tantra, and I've interviewed people about full body orgasms and conscious orgasms and all kinds of stuff. But you know what? There's never enough information out there about it. So I would love to hear from you, Jalala. What is your best explanation of what is Tantra?
Oh, okay. So Tantra is weaving sensuality and spirituality together so that there is more of an intimate, slow, beautiful connection. Connection is the most important thing. We need, as humans, we need to connect. When we need to connect on such a deep level in order to feel that oneness with each other, that we really do need to stop, slow down, and really discover that, really get back to that. Where again, as I was saying before, everything is quick. And Tantra is about slow. A Tantra session could last hours. You know, I would say a minimum of an hour, but up to a couple hours of just beautiful foreplay and slowly getting into each other's bodies, just really getting into the moment and being together and just really feeling deeply what each other wants and which each other needs, and communicating that. That's the important thing too. We need to communicate with each other, both verbally and non-verbally, what it is that we want. And if you slow down and you ask that person what they want, they may tell you a whole different thing than what you think that they want. It is really it creates such a beautiful flow. It really is. It's beautiful.
Spirituality, and so many times what happens is the sensuality is even removed from it, and it just becomes body parts slapping together, and who can get off faster than the other. And it really is like a race to the finish. And
yes,
I again even say, so I probably have over 350 shows. The first story, they were just to this beginners and mention, like, if you really don't, you have the time to prep a partner, do yourself a favor and have the time, because there's nothing feel you rushed.
Running into problems here. Okay. Well, looks like she's gone. So Let me tell you a little bit more about Tantra. The connection is really, really important when it comes to maintaining that closeness. Quick sex, quick journeying, okay, so it's all about the journey. It's not about getting to the finish line. And a lot of people think it's, oh, you got to get that orgasm. It's really important. And let's just get that orgasm done and go back to sleep. But really, it's not about that. It is about finding new ways to please each other. Communicating is so important. It is one of the most important ways to get close to that other person. We really, hi, you back? Yeah. I was just rambling.
Communication. Girls needing that community.
Oh, looks like she's gone again. So anyways, we need that intimacy component when we're doing Tantra. And that's what Tantra brings to a relationship. The intimacy, the connection, the closeness, the desire. And that's a really important thing, the desire to be with each other and wanting to please the other person is about reciprocity. You're really excited about pleasing the other person and getting to know what it is that they are excited about and what they want. And they will do the same to you. You can have a night where you just massage the person with no, outcome for intercourse, no outcome for any expectations on anything else. And it's slow and it's beautiful and the person is receiving it. The person has to, in order to open themselves up to the love, open themselves up to the desire that they want, they have to feel safe. And if you feel safe because you're communicating and you're open and your heart is open, it makes a totally different scenario when it comes to sex and pleasure.
I think that's beautiful. It's just a sense of openness. So even when Jalal was speaking, if you're only listening to the audio, just get a sense of how you're watch about this actually become soft. You can see it in people. You can't really lie about these things. So when it happens, it's very open like that. Sometimes it just brings me to tears. So if this does occur and your person's crying, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing necessarily. Mm-hmm. It means that they're opening up and it's okay. And sometimes just allow them that space to do that as well. Yeah. I'm curious, and we've got a couple minutes before we go to our next break. We've got about ideas about some of the things you have private session, different things you're doing, and some of your plans for the future. Can you share some of that with us before our next commercial?
Plans for the future. I have a couple of different things I want to do. Definitely want to continue with the matchmaking. I want to teach. Couples how to become closer together. And I also want to teach the young. The young people are learning their their sexuality from porn. And porn is not a good teacher. Porn is a horrible teacher. They are not learning anything at all about intimacy. They're learning about the act, and there's so many other horrible things that they're learning. They're learning at such a young age that they don't understand that if you pull a girl's hair, or if you choke her, or if you slap her ass, or if you stick their penis down her throat. Can I say that on here?
You can say that.
I never.
Those are the proper. You say CK, shoving the COCK down the throat, that might get a little bit, but no, the penis down the throat, we're totally legit.
Okay. Oh, geez, I never even thought about it. Anyways, these are things that you see happening on a porn site. And so the young boys are thinking, oh, well, that is the way it's supposed to be, because they don't know anything. They don't know anything better. And then the young girls are going, oh, well, it's okay if they slap me across the head and the ass, and, if they choke me. So I'm finding that more and more young people that I talk to, it's so important to teach them about Tantra, to teach them about intimacy, self-love, deep, intimate connection, and accepting of others and themselves. All of this is so really, really important, and they're not getting that education.
No, they're not. I'm a big fan of the education for sure. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. My other question to come back is, you were mentioning that you wanted to start educating younger folks too. So I would hear some of the things that you have ideas in terms of education that way, and also what are your, if we can before break, what are your age cutoffs, or starting at? Can you be 16 and show up? Could you be 20 show up? How? What's your minimum?
Okay, so I believe that through the laws that I cannot teach anybody under the age of 16 or I think 18 unless their parents give permission. And I think 18 and over, I don't have to ask permission from parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that in Ontario, girls are allowed, females, because we're just going to go with those binary allocations right now, but females legally are allowed to have sex at 16. They can officially give consent at 16, and males can officially give consent at 18. But this is not sex. However, it does teach what of a sexual context in a sensual. There is an energy about it that probably goes with that. So yeah, we're going to go with 18 across the board to make it easier, so that there isn't consent forms needing to be signed. So to know who is like an 18-year-old who's a little bit different and not looking for the usual dating, what a great experience that they could come out to something like this and start their dating life in a totally sacred sexual way. I think that'd be amazing. That is what I would have wanted growing up. With the top thing I would have gone to, because I went to meditations and healings from like a really young age, like, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something. Like, I was going to it for a really long time. And in high school, I would go to meditation, and I would have loved to have had something like this growing up. So I hope young people and totally different life with that. So we're going to head to our next. Wait a second. I may be being told by my producer not to go to break. So let me just see where I'm at.
Okay.
We might not have a break. Okay, yeah, we're going to skip the last take away 2 minutes of our time. So thank you, producer, for keeping an eye on me going off track. So What I would like to discuss a little bit in terms of the education, I love that you brought up the points. If we're looking at polarized energies, like the polarity between Tantra and pornography, like that is polarity right there.
For sure.
So I remember a few years ago, it must be maybe it's more than a few, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I was just after starting this show, about a year after starting the show, I was contacted by some people to do pornography. And I talked to my husband about it. And he's like, well, they're promising you pay, but would you get paid up front? Like, you need to get guaranteed paid up front. He's always very businesslike. It's never like, well, that's not appropriate. I'm like, well, I'll have this conversation with you because, you are in my life and this is kind of would affect you. But he's always so funny because he's so businesslike. And he's like, well, if you get a contract that says you get paid up front and I am there as like your bodyguard, we can do this. But I said, you know what it is about it is there's never the energy of connection. And that is, I've seen like 3 porns in my whole life, maybe. And there's never anything about it that melts my heart and makes me go, wow, that's beautiful. So I always thought, so I counter offered to that company. And I said, I would come on as an instructor, and I would be happy to come on and consult to actually create porn that is way different than what you're creating in the world. And they were like, at this time, we're not interested in that. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. And it's sad. It's really sad because it really shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't. It should be. There is a woman in the Europe that makes porn movies, and hers are very much more into stories and it is more beautiful. I have watched it. I do. When I started getting into Tantra, I really had not seen too many porn movies. I mean, a long time ago, I had watched them, but I had not watched them probably in about 15 years. So I had no idea what was happening in the porn scene. So I asked a friend to send me a whole bunch of different porns from different aspects. And honestly, I was really appalled by the violence and the degradation. That shocked me. But there were ones that were okay. And that was usually done by a woman director.
Usually, yeah. Yeah, there is. I do remember seeing a documentary about a woman who creates, and it's probably the same one that you're talking about, who creates very respectful kind of porn. Even when there's the violence involved in pornography. Now, I don't have enough information on this because I don't watch enough of it, but from my understanding, even the stuff that's BDSM doesn't actually involve consent, which is 100% required.
Exactly.
BDSM. So yeah, when you're talking about the choking and the penis down the throat, all of that requires consent, and it also requires safety, safe words, and all of that stuff. So some of the things that in all levels of sex, I think it's great to have a safe word, even if you're having vanilla sex, even if you're having Tantra, because there are places where sometimes you just want to say, look, stop, this is as far as I want to go. And always being able to know that you have the option to say, okay, that's.
Yeah.
I only have about like 1.5 minutes left, and major. And so these workshops, my sense is, this is a great way to learn how to ask questions, be receptive to listening, to be able to learn to communicate, because guess what? It is so lacking that the inability to even know what questions to ask people, the inability to listen is astounding. I know that growing up, I could have conversations with my friends on the phone. I don't see kids being able to do that these days. So it's nice to be able to have a way to be able to communicate again. We've only got 30 seconds left, Jailala, and I really want to thank you so much for being on the show and for your creation in the world and the things you will be creating. Like, I just feel such an amazing, expansive energy around all the things that you have brewing and that are available. So follow Jailala on all the social medias that you can to get the information. And thank you so much for your presence and your time.
Thank you for listening to The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. The Pleasure Zone returns next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.